Hey everyone, welcome to Cassandra Lunch number 61. Today's topic is going to be on Elassandra, and the topic's going to be covered by Stefan, who's an engineer here at Anant. Currently, the co-organizers for this event and also our sister event, Data Engineers Lunch, are Rahul, myself, and Josh. If you are interested in helping find speakers and or sponsors, feel free to spread the word about the events. And then you can also reach out to Rahul, myself, or Josh if you want to talk or give a talk on a specific topic, either for Cassandra Lunch or Data Engineers Lunch. Or we could also help get sponsors to once we're back in person, hopefully sometime in the near future. So Data Community DC is a diverse community. It's a very inclusive community. No matter your race, gender, whatever, everyone is welcome, and we expect that respect to be respected via everyone. Data Community DC is made up of a bunch of different organizations. We're in the more Data Wranglers DC for Data Engineers Launch, but we also have other organizations like Full Stack Data Science DC, if Full Stack Data Sciences DC is your thing. Statistical Seminars, I know usually has good events as well. So if you're interested in all the other different communities that Data Community DC is built of, you can check out the website, and you can also find out other events that are being hosted by the various communities. So what do we cover here? We essentially cover anything that is Cassandra or talks to Cassandra. Generally, we cover open source Cassandra data stacks, sometimes cover some of the managed services that are Cassandra compliant, like Keyspaces, Cosmos. I believe Azure recently released a managed Cassandra service. And then also we talk technologies that talk to Cassandra. So as a company, we focus on Cassandra, Spark, and Kafka. So a lot of topics that you might find on this talk might be how to connect Spark and Cassandra, how to connect Kafka and Cassandra. So if you're interested, if you have any topics, or if you want to learn something and then present it to the community here, feel free to reach out to Rahul, myself, or Josh, and we can slot you in to give a talk. So this is generally a new or a quick hello for anyone that's new. Just say hi, what they do with Cassandra, or what they hope to get out of these events. Looking through the participants, and I think Max is someone new. I won't pull any teeth, but feel free to unmute yourself, say hi, and potentially what you hope to get out of this event.
My name is Max. I'm new, and yeah, I'm just kind of trying to absorb everything.
Great to have you, Max. And group roles. If you have a question, ask it. We are a community, but obviously be polite and courteous to others. And again, we are a community, so please do share what you know with us. Depending on the speaker, they may have their own preferences in terms of when to ask questions or when they'll answer questions, or in the forum. So some speakers prefer to have answers in the chat or questions in the chat, and they can answer it when they get to a good stopping point. Or depending on the speaker, they may just prefer you to speak up and either raise your question or drop something that may be something they missed and you have something to add to the conversation. So feel free to either do that in the chat or speak up. But again, please respect the speaker's preferences, and generally the speaker will cover that right before they begin. So here at Anant, we design, build, and manage global data and real-time platforms. Again, as mentioned before, surrounding Cassandra, Kafka, and Spark. DataStax is a partner and a sponsor. And we also have GW University, which generally provides some venue space when we have in-person events, so big thank you. We also have some institutional and organizational sponsors. And this is generally section where if someone's new, or if they're not familiar with it, but if you have any jobs, if you're looking for a job or you offering a job, you can either speak up or drop it in the chat, or if you want to advertise some meetups that either you're hosting or you want more people to come to, you can drop links to those in the chat as well, or you can give a quick intro to it. So I'll give a couple seconds if someone wants to share anything. Okay, looks like no one's got anything, but Anant is hiring. We are hiring full-time or part-time data platform operators, engineers, and architects. If you are interested, you can go to careers.anant.us and get started there. Generally, events surrounding Cassandra, DataStax has weekly workshops. We have this event every Wednesday at noon Eastern, Cassandra Lunch. And again, as I mentioned before, we have our sister event, Data Engineers Lunch, every Monday at noon Eastern as well. Some upcoming topics that we have in the pipeline for Cassandra Lunch are how to do a Grafana dashboard with Apache Cassandra, and that's going to be given by a guest speaker. We also have a upcoming topic, not yet decided, but we'll find out closer to the date, that Rahul slotted for. And then we also have using dbeaver with Cassandra, and I believe Josh is slotted for that. So looking forward to those talks. And if you're interested in finding out all of our events, you can find them at our events page, anant.us/events. And you can also find previous events that are recorded, but also links and blogs on our blog, blog.anant.us, and on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/AnantCorp. So again, back to YouTube, if you're interested in going back and rewatching some Cassandra Lunches you missed, we started recording around Cassandra Lunch number 10. So from 10 to 61 now, they are available on YouTube once they get processed. But essentially, you can find them there, or you can just search on Google Cassandra.Lunch. Cassandra.Link is a hand-curated website that Anant has put together. It's the best place for anything Cassandra resources. And so if you're interested in becoming a Cassandra expert, definitely check out Cassandra.Link. Or if you're interested in finding jobs related to Cassandra, you can also check out Cassandra.Jobs, which is a subpage of Cassandra.Link. And that will wrap it up for me. And I will now hand it over to our speaker for today, Stefan.
Thank you, Arpan. Let's see. Can everybody see my screen? All right, so if anybody wants to ask or want to add anything, he can just unmute themselves and talk. I don't mind. Today, I'm going to talk about a little bit about Elassandra, and then more specifically indexing with Elassandra, different ways we can do that. And also, I'm going to demonstrate an aspect of a project I'm working on, which utilizes the Elassandra with Kafka. So what is Elassandra? Elassandra is an open source database and search engine. It's just basically Cassandra and Elasticsearch. It allows for cross data center replication. It scales on demand. It has real-time analytics, a masterless architecture, a reliable primary data stores, and continuous operations in the cloud. Elassandra closely integrates Elasticsearch with Apache Cassandra as a secondary index, allowing near real-time search with all existing Elasticsearch's API, plugins, and tools like Kibana. When you index a document, the JSON document is stored as a row in a Cassandra table and synchronously indexed into Elasticsearch. The write operations in Elasticsearch index, update, delete, and bulk operations are converted into CQL write requests managed by the coordinator node. The Elasticsearch document.id is converted into an underlying primary key. So this is when you do it with the API. The ID is actually created as a primary key. But you can actually create the table yourself, and we'll talk about that later. and the corresponding role is stored as many nodes according to the Cassandra replication factor. Then on each node hosting this role, an Elasticsearch document is indexed through a Cassandra custom secondary index. Every document includes a token field used when searching. So the search request is done with two phases. First, the query phase. The coordinator node adds a token range filter to the query and broadcasts a search request to all nodes. This token ranges filter covers the entire Cassandra ring and avoids duplication results. Secondly, in the fetch phase, the coordinator fetches the required fields by issuing a SQL request in the underlying Cassandra table and builds the final JSON response. So I've seen there's a few ways that you can add data and index data in Elassandra. So the first way, and this is kind of like the longer way, but you have a little bit more control, and is if you create the SQL table yourself and you decide which is your primary key, and then you actually assign the index using the Elasticsearch API, which you can do in multiple ways. Not one way that you can do this. You can do this in multiple ways, right? Just one thing to note: when you are creating the tables with SQL, you just have to make sure that the network topology strategy is there. It's not a simple strategy because we won't be able to index it. So the steps would be: you create the SQL table, you assign the index using the Elasticsearch API, and then you search the database using the Elasticsearch API. I'll show you from Postman a few of the ways I found to index them. And then the easier way is just to add data with the API. And here you just need to provide your index, your table, and this is the ID here. You can add how many fields you want here, and this automatically creates the index, the key space, the table, and the content inside. When you add the data with the API, you can see that ID is the primary key. So Elasticsearch just adds that ID, which is going to be here, into the URL, and that is going to be your primary key. That's why I say if you're creating it with SQL, you have a little bit more control over what types are going to be here, because this is just text. I don't know if there's any way that through the API you can actually set what the type is going to be of each field. But this is just really easy if you don't want to spend time creating the tables and you just want to add the data. Another aspect of this demo that I'm going to show today includes Kafka. And so Apache Kafka is a community distributed event streaming platform capable of handling trillions of events a day. Initially conceived as a messaging queue, Kafka is based on an abstraction of distributed commit logs. Since being created and open sourced by LinkedIn in 2011, Kafka has quickly evolved from messaging queue to a full-fledged event streaming platform. For this project, Kafka is a little bit, it's an overkill to say, but it's just a learning project. So I just wanted to connect with Kafka and see how it works. The demo project I'm going to show to you today is fairly simple. It's just a part of the project, and it basically gets some data from an API, sends it to the producer, which then sends it to the Kafka, and then the consumer takes that information and places it into an Elasticsearch API, which then we can use through the search API. And so let me see. This is the GitHub repo. Let me just put it in. And if anybody wants to clone it, work around it, just know that I will be pushing some updates, including Spark, soon. So, this project is still not done for now. Okay, so I already downloaded it, so we're gonna spend some time on it. The first thing we have to do is just get the containers up and running. And the Docker compose file is just 3 containers, being Zookeeper, Kafka, and Alessandra. And while that runs, we can see that the ports are open for Alessandra, for Kafka, and for the Zookeeper, which we can then use them. So let's see, let's wait a little bit to see if this is up. So this is just basically created with npm plugin that I found online for Kafka. I think it was called Node RD Kafka. I'll put a link to it into the README, so if you guys want to check that out. It was fairly easy to use. It just uses, this is all JavaScript. Okay, I think it's already up, and then now we can just check to see if our containers are running. Okay, so everything's running. And now after that, we need to install the dependencies, but I think I already installed them, so we don't have to wait for that. It takes a little bit more. After that, we just have to create the topic in Zookeeper. So in this case, our topic is going to be Alessandra. That's the name of it. This is the Zookeeper, and this is the port that is talking to. This is the replication factor, the partitions. Very simple command. And now all right, so I'll just put this here. It's not really important, right? We'll have the consumer running here. And then we'll have the producer run assemble. So we can see that, let me open the producer. So what it does, producer, it takes some data from a YouTube API. And just because the max result is 50, that's why we have 50 times that we're going to run through this. We take the data, and then we just get some specific fields from that YouTube API. If you guys want to see what we do, so this is the response that YouTube gives us. We have some next page tokens, and then we have some informations about videos. And so I'll just take some specific file, specific titles, description, channel, and ID that I want. We can take whatever we want, and then we'll just write that message into the producer. And then the producer will take that, I'm sorry, the consumer will take that data, and then it will format it and send it to Alessandra. The way it does that would be like this. So all we need to provide is the index, the table, and then this is going to be the ID. That's why I have taken the ID from the video. So that's why it's unique every time, because if it's not, it's just going to be, because the ID is going to be the primary key. So if we just put the same ID over there, it's going to be just one line of code. And now if we want to check if the data is still here, we can just run the CQLSH command, and we can we see we have 40 rows here. I don't know why we have 40 rows. Maybe I think it was because I was searching for Java. Okay, yeah. And we see that we have the data right here into the Cassandra. Now, obviously, we have this data just dumped here. And if we want to search for something specifically, we can use the Elasticsearch API, which is here. And all we have to do here is just provide the same, the index, the data, and then we can query the title, we can even query if we want the channel, the description, or the ID, right? So we can just, because we just searched for Java, we won't have anything. But if we search for Java, we say we have 39 results. So description, we can even search for, let me see, description. So you see we have 27 results right now. This is really helpful. This is really cool in my opinion, because now I don't have to go through CQSH and add primary keys and just make specifically other tables just to query some data that I'll need just once or maybe twice, right? So I can use this response from this API to, if I was building out a client, a front end, then I will just can get this information and just write a specific API call, and then I'll get the right information I want in a JSON file, and I can just use that. So I think that's why Alessandra is pretty cool, and why I found it interesting to work with. Now, one thing to know that if you are going to create the tables yourself in CQSH, you need to create, like I said, network topology strategy, and then you will need to specify what your primary key is, what types you're going to want your field to be in, and then you have to index them. The way you would have to index is like this. So this will just basically index the table, and or you have to provide is again the index right here, and then the key space. This is the table, and the way this will index your table will be the same as through the API. It will just create whatever the primary key is, that would be your index, right? And then you can query data on that. And then there's a little other field where you can just specifically see what your index is going to be on a specific row, right? Again, the index, the key space, the table, and then specifically which row of the table. And yeah, you can just, this is just a part of the project. Obviously, this is going to change a little bit, but we can just change this up if we want something else to. So one thing to note to say, we can turn off, the way Kafka works is, right, we can turn off the consumer, and we can just start user, and it's going to write all this. So it's going to write 50 lines of results from Cassandra from YouTube, and it's going to be right into the Kafka topic, and they're going to stay there until a consumer that's subscribed to that topic is going to read them. So when I just start the consumer, you can see that it automatically just takes all that information that was stored into that specific topic and takes them down. So if we go to our data, we'll see we have 50 more rows that were added. And now we have like a bunch of data into our Cassandra cluster, and we can just query everything we want. So we have 24 results with the word Cassandra into this description. One thing to know also, you can do a lot more complex queries using the Elasticsearch API. And for that, you would just need to use the documentation in the Elasticsearch and not Alessandra, because it's not really that good. But yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty cool. You can add data, you can query the data, you can search for the data really easy without having to worry too much about Cassandra and Elasticsearch. And that would be my presentation for today. If anybody has any question, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Hey, good presentation. You mentioned Kibana. Were you able to look at the data on Kibana, or is that just something that was there on the site?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I was going to ask, were you able to look at the data in Kibana, using Kibana for Elassandra?
So I didn't push that update using with Kibana. I was trying to do that too, but I was just waiting when I connect Spark to it, and then I was going to use Kibana too.
Oh, cool. Okay. I was just curious. Thanks.
All right. Well, if nobody has any questions, I think
All right.
that's
I think we can wrap it up. Yeah, go ahead, Arpan. Please close it up.
Alrighty. Good presentation, Stefan. Thanks everyone for coming out. The YouTube video will be available in a couple of days, as well as a blog post with any resources, but also a link to the GitHub repo. But the YouTube video itself will have a link to the GitHub repo as well. So go ahead and try it out. But also, I believe, Stefan, you can correct me here. Part 2 of this is when you integrate Spark, etc. Will be on Data Engineers Lunch. So that will be on an upcoming Monday later in the month. So we hope to see you guys there, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.